The auditorium held 300 people, and not one of them gave a damn about Jack Ellery walking across that stage. I adjusted my cap one last time and scanned the crowd for familiar faces. Nothing. My wife Candace had promised she'd be here. My kids, too. Hell, even my brother Dean said he might make it if his barbecue didn't run late. Guess the barbecue won. Jack Ellery, Bachelor of Criminal Justice, summa cum laude, the dean announced. I shook his hand, took my diploma, and smiled for a photographer who probably wondered why nobody was cheering. 43 years old, and I was finally finishing what I'd started before life got in the way. Before marriage, kids, and 20 years as a cop turned university security chief. The ceremony ended and families swarmed the graduates. I stood alone, checking my phone. 45 missed calls from Candace. That was weird. She never called that much, especially not when she was supposedly at Dean's place. The first voicemail made my blood run cold. Jack, we need to talk. Urgently. There's something. Just come home. Please. Her voice was shaking. Candace never shook. I drove home through the familiar streets of Millbrook, Maine, our little city that used to thrive when the paper mill was running. Now it was all gossip and secrets, the kind of place where everyone knew your business before you did. The Victorian house I'd spent 5 years restoring came into view, its fresh paint and rebuilt porch standing out among the tired neighborhood. Something was wrong. The house was too clean, too perfect. Candace had been on a cleaning frenzy lately, but this was different. It looked like a showroom. My phone buzzed. A text from someone named Trina. Don't forget your jacket at Rick's. Candace says thanks for last night. I didn't know any Trina. And who the hell was Rick? I found Candace's phone wedged between the washing machine and dryer, like she'd tried to hide it and failed. The screen was cracked but functional. No password. She'd never been paranoid before. The text messages made me want to punch a wall. Rick, last night was incredible. I can still taste you. Candace, Jack's graduation is today. He'll be gone for hours. Rick, perfect. Your bed or mine? Candace, mine. I like the irony. There was a photo. My wife, in our bed, on my side, wearing nothing but a smile I hadn't seen in years. The timestamp was from this morning, 2 hours before my graduation. 22 years of marriage, 2 kids, a house we'd built together, and she was screwing some guy named Rick while I walked across a stage alone. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the evidence, when Candace walked in. She looked flustered, her hair messy, lipstick smudged. Jack, you're home early. How was graduation? Empty, I said. You weren't there. I'm so sorry, honey. Dean's barbecue ran late, and the kids were having such a good time. Cut the shit, Candace. She froze. I never swore at her, never raised my voice. 22 years of being the good husband, the understanding one. I found your phone, I said, holding it up, and Rick's messages, and the photo. Her face went through about 6 different expressions before settling on defiant. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think my wife is screwing some guy named Rick in our bed while I'm at graduation. Am I wrong? You don't understand. You've been distant, cold. We haven't been intimate in months. So you decided to get intimate with Rick instead. She crossed her arms. Maybe if you paid attention to me instead of your stupid degree and your boring job. My boring job pays for this house. My stupid degree was supposed to be a celebration. Our celebration. Don't blame me for your midlife crisis, Jack. I stared at her. This woman I'd loved, supported, built a life with. She was looking at me like I was the problem. Get out, I said quietly. This is my house too. Get out. Now before I do something we'll both regret. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. You're being ridiculous. When you calm down, we'll talk like adults. Take your phone, I called after her. Wouldn't want you to miss any messages from Rick. The door slammed. I sat alone in my kitchen, diploma on the counter next to the evidence of my wife's betrayal. Graduation day. What a joke. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my basement workshop thinking. Candace thought she was clever, but she'd made mistakes. Big ones. And I was a security professional with 20 years of police experience. If she wanted to play games, I'd show her how the game was really played. First call was to Lenny Morrison, my only real friend at the university. Ex-military, divorced, and loyal to a fault. Jack, it's 6 in the morning. I need a favor, Len. Can you come over? Everything okay? Not even close. Lenny arrived an hour later with coffee and donuts. I showed him the evidence. Jesus, Jack, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me get even. We spent the morning installing new locks and a security system, really just cameras in key locations. Then I made some financial adjustments. Joint accounts frozen. My paycheck redirected to a new account. Credit cards canceled. You sure about this? Lenny asked. She wants to play house with Rick? She can do it on her own dime. Next stop was Murphy's Diner, the gossip central of Millbrook. Mrs. Mom. Callahan, our 70-year-old neighbor, held court at the corner booth every morning. Jack, dear, congratulations on graduation, though I didn't see Candace there. She had other priorities, I said, ordering coffee. Oh, speaking of Candace, I saw her car at Rick Dalton's place last night. And this morning, too. Not the first time, either. Bingo. Rick Dalton. I knew that name. He owned the used car lot on Main Street. Former high school football star who never left town. Really? I said, playing dumb. Oh, yes, dear. Been going on for weeks. I don't like to gossip, but Mrs. Callahan loved to gossip. Within an hour, half the diner knew about Candace's visits to Rick's place. I drove to Dalton's Auto Sales after lunch. Rick was easy to spot, still built like the jock he'd been 25 years ago, but with a beer gut and thinning hair. He was showing a sedan to a young couple. Help you? He asked when they left, looking for something reliable, family car. Jack, right? I'm Rick. He stuck out his hand. I shook it, resisting the urge to break his fingers. You know me? Small town, plus I know your wife, Candace, right? Sweet lady. Sweet lady. This bastard was screwing my wife and calling her sweet. Yeah, she's something, I said. So, about that car. I spent an hour haggling him down on a Honda Civic, making him work for every dollar in front of other customers. When he got cocky, I'd mentioned some defect I'd noticed, embarrassing him in front of potential buyers. You drive a hard bargain, he said, sweating. I'm thorough. I notice things other people miss. His smile faltered. Good. Actually, I changed my mind, I said. This car's not for me. I walked toward my truck, then turned back. Oh, Rick? Stay away from my family. His face went white. I drove off, leaving him standing there like an idiot. That evening, Candace came home. The locks are changed, she said, trying to sound calm. Yep. And my credit cards are canceled. Yep. Jack, this is childish. Childish is screwing your husband's wife while he's at graduation. Rick told me you threatened him. Rick talks too much. Like his girlfriend. She slammed her purse down. I want half of everything. You deserve exactly what you've earned. Which is nothing. I'll get a lawyer. Good luck paying for one. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. What happened to you, Jack? You used to be nice. Nice guys finish last. You taught me that. Candace moved in with her sister temporarily, but the damage was spreading. She'd started telling people I was unstable, hinting that I'd been abusive. Her friend Brenda, who ran the local social media gossip network, was posting cryptic messages about toxic marriages and women finding their strength. Time to fight fire with fire. I started feeding information to Mrs. Callahan and her diner network. Rick's business troubles, 3 bankruptcies in 10 years. His reputation with women, apparently Candace wasn't his first affair with a married woman. And the best part, Trina Walsh, Candace's supposed best friend, had been sleeping with Rick 2 years ago. "Well, I never," Mrs. Callahan said when I casually mentioned seeing Rick and Trina together at the motel last year. "And now he's with Candace? That man gets around." The gossip mill worked faster than the internet. By noon, everyone knew Rick was a serial homewrecker and Candace was just his latest conquest. But Candace wasn't going down without a fight. She'd convinced her boss at the tech firm that she needed time off to deal with her abusive husband. The sympathy was working. People who'd known me for years were giving me strange looks. Time to escalate. During my lunch break, I visited Candace's office. The receptionist knew me from company parties. "Hi, Mr. Ellery, here to see Candace?" "Actually, I'm returning something she dropped," I said, holding up Rick's wallet. I'd lifted it during our car lot encounter. Old police habits die hard. "Oh, she's in a meeting. I can put it on her desk." "That's perfect, thanks." Rick's wallet, sitting on Candace's desk, would raise questions, especially when Rick reported it missing and the security cameras showed him leaving the office building yesterday, a building he had no business being in. The next morning, Lenny called. "Your wife's been suspended," he said. "Word is they're investigating inappropriate conduct." "Really? That's terrible." "Jack, you're scary when you're pissed off." "I'm just getting started." That evening, Rick confronted me at Murphy's Diner. He brought backup, a big guy named Jay who worked at his lot. "We need to talk," Rick said, sliding into my booth. "I'm eating," I said, not looking up from my meatloaf. "You planted my wallet in Candace's office." "Did I?" "That's a serious accusation." "Cut the crap, Jack. I know it was you." I looked at him finally. "Prove it." "I don't need to prove anything. I just need you to back off." "Or what?" Jay leaned forward. "Or we'll make you back off." I pulled out my phone, showing the recording app that had been running since they sat down. "Threatening a security officer is a felony, boys? Want to rethink your approach?" They left without another word. I sent the recording to my email, just in case. 2 nights later, Lenny and I paid Rick's car lot a visit. Nothing illegal, just some creative redecorating. Spray paint on the office windows, homewrecker special, ask about our family discount, and a few dead fish in the air conditioning vents. By morning, the whole town was talking about it. Rick blamed me, of course, but had no proof. The police took a report and did nothing. Candace's suspension became public knowledge when Brenda accidentally shared a screenshot of the HR email. Suddenly, the woman who'd been posting about toxic marriages was defending her friend's inappropriate workplace relationship. The tide was turning. Candace was desperate. Her job was gone, her reputation was in tatters, and her lover was being mocked throughout town. She came to the house one evening, using the kids as leverage. "They want to see you, Jack. They don't understand why Mommy and Daddy are fighting. Maybe because Mommy was screwing Rick Dalton while Daddy was at graduation. You're going to tell them that?" "I'm going to tell them the truth when they're old enough to understand it." She tried a different approach. "I made a mistake. I was lonely, confused. You were bored. There's a difference. We can work through this. Counseling, therapy. Some things can't be fixed, Candace. Like trust." She started crying then. Real tears that might have moved me a month ago. Now they just annoyed me. "What do you want from me, Jack? What will it take?" "I want you to disappear. You and Rick both. Find somewhere else to ruin lives." "This is my town, too." "Not anymore." Rick was getting desperate, too. He'd started following me, trying to catch me alone, probably planning some kind of confrontation away from witnesses. I decided to give him what he wanted. I sent a text from Candace's phone. I still had access to her cloud account. "Meet me at the old paper mill tonight, 11 p.m. We need to talk about Jack." The abandoned mill sat by the river, a monument to Millbrook's better days. I got there early, positioning myself in the shadows of the old machinery. Rick arrived right on time, looking around nervously. "Candace? You here?" I waited until he was deep inside the building, then triggered the sound system I'd rigged up, my old police siren on repeat, echoing off the concrete walls. Rick panicked, running for the exit, but I'd locked the doors. He spent 6 hours in there before I found him the next morning and called the police. "Thank God you heard him shouting," Officer Martinez said as Rick was loaded into an ambulance, dehydrated and babbling about being trapped. "Just lucky I was jogging by," I said. Rick couldn't prove anything. His story about being lured there by a text made him sound paranoid. The police wrote it up as an accident, probably kids playing pranks. But the real damage was to his reputation. Word spread that Rick Dalton had gotten lost in an abandoned building and needed to be rescued. The town's former football hero, reduced to a punchline. Candace knew it was me. She sent increasingly frantic messages, threatening lawsuits, demanding meetings. I ignored them all. Then the letter arrived. Legal letterhead, fancy paper. Rick and Candace were suing me for harassment, stalking, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I called my lawyer, but I was already planning my next move. The mediation was set for Saturday afternoon at the community center. Neutral ground, they said, public place, safe for everyone. I arrived early with Lenny and a briefcase full of evidence. Candace came with Rick and some lawyer from Portland who looked like he charged by the hour. A small crowd had gathered. Word travels fast in Millbrook, and this was better than cable TV. "Before we start," I said, "I want everyone to hear something." I pulled out a digital recorder and pressed play. Rick's voice filled the room. "We need to make Jack back off. One way or another." "That's from 3 days ago," I said, "when Mr. Dalton and his associate threatened me at Murphy's Diner." The lawyer looked uncomfortable. "My clients deny there's more." The next recording was Candace talking to Trina. "Jack doesn't suspect anything. He's too stupid to figure it out. Rick and I can do whatever we want." Candace went pale. "Where did you get that?" "Your phone automatically backs up to the cloud, sweetheart. You really should read those terms of service agreements. This is illegal. Actually, it's not. Maine is a one-party consent state for recordings. And since I'm technically still your husband, I have legal access to our shared accounts." The lawyer was furiously taking notes. The crowd was eating it up. "But wait," I said, "there's more." I played the recording of Rick bragging to Jay about nailing Jack's wife in his own bed and how they were going to take him for everything he's worth in the divorce. Rick stood up. "You son of a bitch! Sit down, Rick." We're not done. The final recording was the best. Trina Walsh, Candace's supposed best friend, talking to someone on the phone. "Candace is so stupid. She thinks Rick loves her, but he's been texting me the whole time. Soon as this divorce goes through, he's dumping her for me." Candace turned to stare at Trina, who'd been sitting in the back row. "You bitch." "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "my wife's support system." The crowd was murmuring now, picking sides. Mrs. Callahan was taking notes for her morning diner report. Rick made his move then, lunging across the table at me. But 20 years as a cop had taught me a few things. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used his momentum to slam him face first into the wall. "Stay down," I said, pinning him with one hand while the crowd cheered. The lawyer was packing his briefcase. "My clients will be in touch." "No, they won't," I said, "because if they contact me again, these recordings go to everyone in town. Social media, local newspaper, radio station. Everyone will know exactly what kind of people they are." Candace was crying again, but nobody cared anymore. The crowd was dispersing, already planning how they'd tell this story to their friends. "You've destroyed everything," she said. "You destroyed everything the day you decided Rick was more important than our marriage. What am I supposed to do now?" "I don't care. That's not my problem anymore." As people filed out, Trina approached me. "Jack, I have something for you." She handed me a phone. "Candace gave me this to hold, said it had evidence that would hurt you. But it's actually her confessing to the affair, talking about how she's going to take you for half of everything." I looked at the phone, then at Trina. "Why are you helping me?" "Because she's been sleeping with my boyfriend for 6 months, and I'm tired of pretending to be her friend." Outside, there was a loud explosion. Rick's BMW was on fire in the parking lot. "Wasn't me," I said quickly. Jay, Rick's mechanic, was standing nearby with a gas can and a guilty expression. "Bastard owed me 3 months' wages," he said before walking away. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. The next morning, I was having breakfast at Murphy's Diner when Candace walked in. She looked terrible. No makeup, wrinkled clothes, dark circles under her eyes. The entire diner went quiet. "Jack, please. Can we talk?" I looked around at the faces watching us. Mrs. Callahan had her phone out, probably live streaming to Facebook. "Talk," I said. "Not here. Privately." "Number you made this public when you decided to screw Rick. Say what you need to say." She sat down across from me, hands shaking. "I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I was selfish and stupid and you got caught. I want to come home. I want to fix this." "Can't be fixed." "Jack, please. 22 years of marriage has to count for something." I put down my coffee cup and looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd shared my bed, raised my children, promised to love me forever. "You're right," I said. 22 years should count for something, but you threw it away for a few hours with Rick Dalton, a used car salesman who's been screwing half the married women in town. I know I hurt you. You didn't hurt me, Candace. You destroyed me. There's a difference." The diner was silent except for the soft sound of Mrs. Callahan's phone recording everything. "What about the kids?" "The kids will be fine. They'll visit me on weekends, spend summers here. But you're done. In this town, in this marriage, in my life." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care. Portland, Boston, California. Just go." She started crying again, but it was different this time. Not manipulation, just despair. "I loved you," she whispered. "No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me, the security, the house, the respectability. But you never loved me." I stood up and dropped a 10 on the table. "Goodbye, Candace." I walked out of the diner, leaving her crying at the table. Through the window, I could see the other customers turning away from her, conversations resuming without her. That afternoon, I organized one last public spectacle. Mrs. Callahan's weekly gossip session at the diner, but this time, it was a full roast. Every dirty detail about Candace and Rick's affair came out. The lies, the manipulation, the way they'd planned to take me for everything in the divorce. Rick tried to leave town that evening, but his car was towed for unpaid tickets. His house was in foreclosure. Turns out his business hadn't been doing as well as he'd claimed. By sunset, he was walking out of Millbrook with a suitcase and his wounded pride. Candace lasted 2 more days. She tried staying with Trina, but that bridge was burned. Her sister wouldn't take her calls. Finally, she packed her things and left in a rental car, heading south toward Portland. I watched from my front porch as she drove away, taking nothing but her clothes and her shame. The house felt different now. Cleaner somehow, like an infection had been removed. I sat in my kitchen, diploma hanging on the wall next to a photo of me and the kids, and opened a beer. My phone buzzed. A text from Lenny. "How you feeling?" "Free," I typed back. Outside, Mrs. Callahan was walking her dog, probably heading to the diner to share the final chapter of the Candace and Rick saga. By tomorrow, everyone in town would know how it ended. The good guy won. The cheaters lost. Justice served. I raised my beer to the window, toasting the empty street where my wife's car had disappeared. Graduation's over, I said to the empty house. So are you.